for me, it was like, man, fuck it, I'll just become a fugitive, and then, you know, I'll smuggle pot, and maybe I'll make so much money that I'll become like the Lucky Luciano of the marijuana business and go live in Sicily or someplace like that, and you know, keep the cops away and write my book. That was my deluded thought, you know. I split and left the country and went over to Beirut and was putting together this big load of hash. And we had set the whole thing up like it was a legitimate date importation, because at that point in time there was a big war going on between Iraq and Iran, and you couldn't get dates. These small chopped dates that they use in cake mixes, and so that was the plan. We would buy the dates in Baghdad, ship them to Beirut, put the hash in there, and then ship the hash inside the load of dates back here, right over here, to Jersey. And that's ultimately what we did. But it was complicated by the fact that the war was raging at that point. It was 1981, 82. So I mean, what should have taken me a few weeks ended up taking me 6 months to do. And meanwhile, the war was getting more and more intense. Every day, bombings. Christians were sending mortars and bombing West Beirut. The Israelis were sending rockets, and they had their jets. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Snipers all over the place. Finally, just before the Israelis invaded, I mean, it was literally, I would say, days. You know, I mean, it was really bad. The load left. The port was closed like 2 or 3 days after that boat got out of there. And then I left, and I flew out of Syria and flew to New York and checked into the Chelsea Hotel. It was my habit always, for some reason, to stay at the Chelsea Hotel when I was waiting for a load. The thing about the Chelsea was that I knew everybody there. They knew me. A lot of dope dealers. I always knew that if there was any heat on me, the people in the staff would warn me and tell me. So I'm staying there, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And my partner, Steve calls me early Monday morning, and he goes, man, said, you're a rich motherfucker, go back to sleep. Because what happened was the customs guys called him Monday morning and said, we're satisfied that everything's cool with that. Come get the rest of the containers and go ahead and break the seals on them and take your dates. So by that point we had 15,000 pounds of hash that we had smuggled into the United States. Didn't lose a gram of it. I was back in Maui, living with Vicky, just taking care of business. She was running around, bringing the money, because I was a fugitive. I was basically hiding out at that point. We had all this money, and I was hiding out in this house that we had over there. I got a call from this guy, the captain, who was the son of Abu Ali, who was the big grower over there, telling me that the wizard, the guy who had stole that load and owed the Lebanese like millions of dollars, had agreed to pay, but only if he could meet with me, because he was concerned that I was going to try to have him killed or try to get the Lebanese to kill him. But he said he would meet with me and he would pay me. This guy, the captain, this guy that was in the army, he was part of what they call Delta Force. You know, he was into the whole anti-terrorist stuff, and he'd been part of that original mission to try to save the hostages in Iran. He was a very high-level guy, but he was also selling a lot of weapons with complete understanding of the United States military and the government to like various factions that were at war in the Middle East at that time. So the captain's got this idea that he's going to blow up this guy's house. He's going to take plastic explosives and put it in this guy's house, and while he's meeting with me, he's going to blow this guy's house up. That was his plan. So I was like, all right, if that's what you want to do. He's like, create a vacant lot. That's the way he put it. Like, just like Beirut, you know, we blow the place up. And then when he comes home and sees his house blown up, he'll understand you don't fuck with the Lebanese. I'm like, all right, that's what you're going to do. I'll meet with them. I'll arrange to pick up the money from him. And, you know, meanwhile, you'll blow up his house. So I go into L.A., check into a hotel, call him, set up the meeting with him at the Sheraton Senator Hotel at LAX. And I arrived there a couple of hours early and went up on the mezzanine level so that I could look down and watch when he came in to see if he was being followed or anything like this. So I'm up there on the mezzanine level and waiting to see, and the captain comes in. He's got this big briefcase with him. He sits down, I go down, we shook hands, and we started to walk out. As we were walking through the lobby of the hotel, it was incredible. These guys that were dressed like hotel bellmen and stuff started leaping over the front desk, pulling guns, and all these agents come flying out of nowhere. Yeah, the whole place completely wired with agents. I'm just got my hands up, I'm afraid I'm gonna get shot. Somebody's going, gun, gun, you know, I'm like, oh no. The one thing that I feel like is maybe the major noble act of my life was to refuse to cooperate with the government, to not become a rat. I mean, that's the one thing that I can honestly say. If I look in the mirror to this day, I say, well, at least you never fucking ratted on anybody. One of the things that sustained me all the years that I was locked up was the fact that I was writing all the time. So I didn't feel like I was wasting my time. And I had always suspected that at one day or another I was going to be arrested. In fact, when I was finally arrested, it was a sense of, okay, finally, relief. You know, it's over. I can stop running. And now I'll just, you know, settle down and write. I realized that, you know, the law is basically all about language. A statute is just a bunch of words. And once you understand language and the essence of how to argue on paper and in court, then you understand the law. Years later, studying the law in jail, I found that it's illegal. You can't give a person more time for refusing to cooperate. You can give them less time for cooperating, but the sentence becomes coercive rather than punitive. So I appealed the sentence. I went back to her and said, your sentence is illegal. She denied it. I appealed that to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Second Circuit Court of Appeals gave oral argument. I got this lawyer friend of mine to go in there and argue it for me. They vacated my sentence. They remanded me back to New York to be resentenced by a new judge. So I go back in front of the new judge. He ran the two sentences concurrent. So the 15 and the 10 were running concurrent. The 15 was parolable, the 10 wasn't. So I had to max out that 10-year sentence, which was 8 years. After 8 years, I got out. Language is an unbelievably powerful thing. I literally wrote my way out of prison. If I hadn't been able to read and understand the law and read those law books and say, wait a minute, this is my case. They're talking about what happened to me. My sentence was coercive. It wasn't punitive. They were trying to force me to cooperate. That's why they gave me more time. That's illegal. Now, a guy who doesn't understand what coercive and punitive and the other aspects of the law are is never going to be able to discover that and never going to be able to avail himself of legal remedies. So that was a huge awakening for me to understand that this is what the law is all about. It's about language, and it's about understanding language and being able to present your argument, your case history in a way that's compelling to judges, and they have to say, this guy's right, he understands the law.